We're now going to move into our Q&A session, and we've had a huge amount of questions. We may not be able to get through all of them, but we will continue to respond to them via the online channel for those that we cannot get to. There's a couple that have come through that I'm going to start with before I hand over to some of our panel speakers. One of them is around, as a business owner, am I still able to come into work? Would there be if I'm on my own during the lockdown? So this is a question that I have actually raised directly with a couple of people in government circles, and the very clear message from the Prime Minister is the importance of going into lockdown is to restrict the travel of people or the movement of people around our city, around our country. So the intention is that where you can work from home, you should work from home rather than travelling into the office each day, unless, of course, you are an essential service. So that is the suggestion on that one. The second one is of a similar ilk. As a business owner, able to access their place of work to retrieve items such as servers, backups, maintenance, etc. Businesses will remain closed to staff and visitors. Again, a similar message. If you need to do that, I would suggest that you do that today, because as of midnight tonight, we are in lockdown, so you will not be able to go into the workplace to do that for the same reasons that I just outlined before. Okay, a lot of the questions that we have got are aimed at Regan. So Regan, look out, they're coming your way. There's obviously a lot of clarification around some of the points that you made. So I'm going to start off by asking you, Regan, what's the difference between self-isolation and government-enforced isolation for the purposes of the leave subsidy?
Thanks, Leanne. So people that are currently working from home and would be accessing the wage subsidy from home, and with regards to the self-isolation, if they are sick from COVID-19, then that would be different to the wage subsidy where they are working from home.
Thanks, Regan. Another one. Am I right that once you have the subsidy, you are obliged to pay all employees 80% of their normal wages?
Yes, that's correct, Leanne.
Thank you. Another one, and perhaps if I can get both Regan and Paul to respond to this one. Now, Paul is actually, as I mentioned before, dialing in, so there will be a little bit of a delay for him. But Regan, we'll go to you first. As a hospitality service-based industry with staff that can't obviously do their jobs from home, what are our requirements in terms of paying staff to stay at home who can't work?
So the requirements would be that, again, under the wage subsidy criteria, is to be paying a minimum of up to 80% and accessing the wage subsidy while those people aren't at work.
Sales reps who are paid a retainer and commission, do you have to pay just the retainer, or do we need to pay the retainer and top up the commission they would have gotten if they were able to sell products?
Yeah. Thank you. Good question. I don't have the detail of that, but we'll make a note of it and definitely get back to you on that question.
Thank you. Another one for you, Regan. What about if you are an essential service, if a worker has to self-isolate, are they covered under the wage subsidy? They do have a medical certificate.
We will clarify that, but under the current protocol rule that's been put in place is that if they're required to self-isolate, then they'd be accessing the COVID-19 leave payment, but we will clarify it, like I say, and get back to you.
Thanks, Regan. One further one, how do we record the wage subsidy in the wage software, e.g. irregular payment or special leave, and is it subject to KiwiSaver, PAYE, ACC?
In terms of clarifying it, is that in the wage software, is that in with regards to the application when you lodge the application, or your own wage software in the platform that you use? I'm not really too sure around that one. So if we can get some clarification around that, and then we can get a response to the person who's asked that question.
Great, thank you. So whoever asked that question, if they can perhaps just clarify that, and we will certainly come back to you on that one. Couple more for you, Regan. One of my clients received a payment, but it was only enough to cover 2 weeks. Is MSD making several payments?
So the payment in regards to the COVID-19 leave payments need to be lodged with us each time. So it's paid for up to 14 days. The other payment with regards to wage subsidy, again, possibly a wee bit more clarity around the question, but if it's with regards to the wage subsidy, then the person would need to be applying for that once, and if it was prior to the cap being removed of 150,000, then we will rectify that and top it up, so the employer won't need to do anything.
So one further one, can you claim both the leave payment and the wage subsidy for the same employee?
Fantastic question, and we've just been talking about that this morning, and we're seeking some further information on that at the moment. So again, I'm really, really sorry. This is, like we talked about at the start, so many decisions are being made, and we're still trying to get clarity around that. So as soon as we have an answer to that, we'll get back to you.
And are the wage subsidies then subject to holiday pay, i.e. 8%? Are employees building up holiday hours while on the wage subsidy? Good question.
Really good question, and I would say yes, that the leave entitlements, etc., still continue to be calculated during that period. But again, we'll definitely clarify that and come back to you.
Thank you, Regan. I don't think Regan was expecting to get 100% of the questions, but it looks like you are. This is one that maybe, Regan, you may have to come back to people about as well, and it's certainly one that we will seek some further information from Paul on. Can you top up some of your employees up to 80% of their normal wage when receiving the subsidy, and elect to top up others more? So I guess some just get the wage subsidy, and some you might want to top up to the normal amount, particularly where less would take them under the minimum wage, even though they're not at home, and not working due to lockdown.
Yeah, that is a good question, actually. And again, thank you for preempting the fact that we probably need to get some more detail around that, Leanne, and we will get back to you.
Thank you. And another one, if employees choose to self-isolate, are they to use the annual leave or leave without pay?
So with regards to the COVID-19 leave payment, the employer and the employee can negotiate between them both, just with regards to what they would be accessing. And like I said in my presentation, they don't have to exhaust all of their annual leave or sick leave to be able to access the COVID-19 leave payment.
Thank you. Just one other one to give Regan a slight breather. There's one around, as an essential service transport provider, how do we determine what transport is considered essential by the government? This is one of the questions in one of the points of clarification around the essential service list that we are working through directly with the government on. So we don't have an answer to that particular question, but we will certainly elevate it and try and get a response for you on that one. Regan, another one for you. If people are self-isolating and are not sick, do they get the leave subsidy?
Yeah, if people are choosing to self-isolate, or if they're self-isolating because they are sick, either way, they can still access the leave payment. And
does the 80% apply to the leave subsidy?
I'm not sure of that one, but again, we'll clarify that one.
Sorry, I'm reading these as quick as they come in, so I might be asking you questions that we've already asked. Is the wage subsidy scheme only for those that can't work at home, or for all employees? Also, for the 30% revenue decline, does this need to be each month or just for 1 month?
So the COVID-19 wage subsidy is for people that cannot go to work. So businesses that have actually closed. If they're working from home, then people wouldn't necessarily be accessing the wage subsidy. And the second part of the question, I'm not too sure on the detail around that one, and we'll get back to you.
Great, thanks, Regan. I think we've now got Paul who can hear us. So Paul, this is a question for you. Does the employer need to top up to make the 80% of their wages from their own pocket, or negotiate with staff to take their annual leave?
That's a question we've asked this morning, and we're waiting to answer as we speak, because the position is that employers must commit to pay staff at least 80% of their income while they're subject to the wage subsidy scheme. that does beg the question of where an employer is unable to pay that much. What happens then? And I'm waiting for an answer on that particular part. As a follow-up to that, we've also asked if the business can't afford to pay up to 80%, can they pay the subsidy only? And in this position on that at the moment, what I've just got is under the scheme, you must commit to pay at least 80% of the employee's income. However, best endeavours mean that the employer and employee can negotiate an alternative approach. For instance, the employee may accept a 60% wage. That means more of their workforce colleagues can also be paid some income. Such best endeavours need to be documented to prove that that was in fact a kosher arrangement. So it sounds a bit fudged in the sense of one hand they're saying you have to pay 80%, and on the other hand they're saying use best endeavours. So I'm trying to get clarity around what the difference between those two positions might be.
Thanks, Paul. A further one, with regards to the topping up of 80%, is this based on their normal contracted hours, or do we have to do an average of previous 4 weeks or 52-week average?
Again, the question with us at this stage, the advice is normal wages is what they would normally receive in a given week. So that would include typical allowances or commissions that they would receive in the normal week. An analogy would be relevant to pay under the holiday. That, as I said, in the circumstances, may not be possible. So we need some further clarity around what the subsidy is aimed at in terms of the 80%. As I said earlier, we've got a process where we will be putting all these questions to MB every day, and they've committed to giving us answers by the following morning. So pretty much every day we will have answers to the previous day's questions.
Thanks, Paul. So for those of you that couldn't quite hear Paul on that last response, these are the sorts of questions and the sorts of feedback that we do need from you so that we can elevate these straight into government, and we will get answers overnight where we can on these issues. What we will do is we will make sure we are providing those regular updates and information on the Chamber website. So that's thechamber.org.nz. And there is a COVID-19 page. So please make sure that you do connect in with that, and we will also provide regular information through our communications. Just a couple of questions in regards to essential services. Clarification of essential services. We are a supplier to the supermarkets of wine and beer. Are we able to stay open and supply? What I suggest you do is again go on to that Chamber website. There is now an updated list as of this morning of essential services. And there is also now, I believe, live an 0800 number that should be also posted on our website where you can ring and get that question answered directly. The other one is, what about if you work on your own and can't work from home but still need to travel away from your home to get to your workplace? The answer to that one is, if you are an essential service provider, then you can operate. If you are not, then you cannot. If in doubt, please also check the website and phone that 0800 number. Regan, we've probably got a couple more for you. What happens if you have made a claim already, but you've forgotten to include some staff?
Yeah, and during a time like that naturally can happen, and that's absolutely fine. So what you can do is that you can resubmit for those staff that you haven't previously made a claim for under the wage subsidy.
Thanks, Regan. One query: when I applied online for a client, it doesn't give you the option as to if it was for the wage subsidy or the leave subsidy. I presume that MSD made the decision based on our answers. Is that correct?
Well, as far as I know, there's a section for the leave payment that you're requesting, and also the wage subsidy as well. So what I would suggest the employer does that's ask that question is to contact our 0800 number and just seek clarity around what they've actually received the payment for.
Thank you. If a new staff member is contracted to start on 1 April, will they be covered by the wage subsidy?
Yes, because it's about the future intent of the company and what was intended during the period of disruption, and because the wage subsidy is paid for that 12-week period for business continuity purposes, that person was going to be working for them. So that would be something that they could claim for, but we will double check that and get back to them with an answer on that one.
Great, thanks, Regan. We are a tourism business with seasonal staff that would ordinarily finish in 6 weeks' time. How do we go about getting the wage subsidy for them for just the time they would be employed?
Yeah, so again, with regards to the intent of the business, is that they still would have been required to be working in that business for the next 6 weeks. So I would be encouraging them to lodge an application for the wage subsidy to cover the period that they were going to be working for up to, the 6-week mark.
Thank you. Can employers require staff to take annual leave for the 80% and statutory days? Are they paid as per normal?
Statutory days would be paid as per normal, but in terms of staff taking annual leave, if it wasn't initially intended, then I wouldn't have thought so. But we'll get some clarity around that and get back to the person who's asked that question.
Thank you. Look, there's a few, obviously quite a lot of inquiry around topping up and clarification on how employers do top up, whether or not they have obligations. We will make sure we put some information together on those issues for you. As Paul Mackay mentioned before, he is constantly working to get clarification and answers on some of these questions. So just keep an eye on that website and we'll make sure that we provide some clarity around those issues as we get more information. And again, quite a lot of inquiries again on whether or not people are classified as essential services if they are supplying to food processing companies, etc. Encourage you to go onto the website, have a look at the list that has been updated this morning, and if in doubt, ring the 0800 number that I'm hoping will now be up on the website. If it's not there already, it should be there very soon. I believe it was due to go live around 10 o'clock. Okay, some other questions coming in. Regan, one for you. Surprise, surprise. When the wage subsidy payment comes into your company bank account, how do you treat the payment from an accounting perspective? Actually, that may also be a Benjamin question. So Regan, we'll try you first.
Yeah, and I'd probably pass that ball to Benjamin to see if he's able to answer that one. If we can't, we'll certainly get an answer. Benjamin, have we still got you online? Oh. Looks like we've lost him.
Yeah. We might go to Andrew. Sorry, we might go to Andrew. We've lost Benjamin. Andrew, are you still online, and can you answer that question if you heard it?
Yes, I'm still here. So certainly in terms of the income, it's obviously meant to be to cover wages. So there's potentially a couple of things there. It could either be treated as other income, or it could be put directly against the wages to obviously reduce the wage bill. Now, I mean, I would talk to your accountant or advisor directly more about it, because depending on the requirements from your accounting standards perspective, will determine where it needs to go. But certainly we can look into it a little bit more as well.
Thank you. There's a couple of more questions around the essential services. One in particular, our products are used in medical research overseas, including for COVID-19. Could our production be considered an essential service? I would say probably most likely, but again, go to the website and just hopefully the 0800 number is there and give them a call, because you'll get a reasonably instant answer, I expect, on that one. There's also one, we obviously need a lot more clarity around the subsidies to ensure we are doing the right thing. I think there's probably 2 points of contact there. Obviously, MSD can respond to any direct inquiries. And also, I would encourage you to phone the Chamber, 0800 50 50 96. We have our own response team, as I mentioned at the outset, and our HR advisors can certainly help you and with making sure that you are doing the right thing. A question for you, Regan. Self-isolating staff who have not travelled, who are not unwell and have not had any known exposure to COVID, is leave subsidy available? I can probably answer that, yes.
Yeah, absolutely, it is available.
Thank you. I'm going to read this question out and then work out who it goes to, because I'm only just getting it straight in front of me. Using best endeavours on retaining and at least 80% of their income, if this goes on longer, is an option to reduce the percentage further if business viability is at risk. So this is probably a Paul question if we've still got you, Paul.
And I think, as I mentioned earlier, it's clear, and this is MB's response from last night, MB's must commit to pay at least 8% while they're getting the subsidy, but they have to use best endeavours to do that, and that means that the employer and employee can negotiate an alternative lower approach, more people can be paid. If that is documented as late proof that they weren't subverting the scheme. That's not 100% clear, because there are a lot of employers for whom the subsidy will be only being anything, and popping up something isn't possible. So there's more clarity on what the best endeavours means in relation to the above subsidy amount.
Sorry, we're going to come back because we can't hear Paul very clearly. I think he sounds like he's in a tunnel. So we will respond to that question online so that we can make sure that you can actually understand the response. Regan, another one for you. Can you access your original application for the wage subsidy? So I'm assuming if you've already put one in and it hasn't been responded to, can you edit it?
When you go back on, before you go back into the online application, what I would do would be to ring, contact us on our 0800 number, because you may have a reference that you can put in. I'm not sure, because of course it only talks about being able to enter the information once. So if you're adding some employees that you missed, please contact the 0800 number to just get that process clear for you before you go back in and resubmit. The last thing we want to do is to have things bouncing back at you when you've had to go in and enter a whole pile more information on employees.
Thanks, Regan. This might be one for, we'll try Benjamin again. I think he is back online. How will the wage subsidy, I'm assuming when they say will, how will the wage subsidy affect end of year payroll processing, which is due next week? No, maybe we haven't got Ben. What about Andrew? Can you respond to that one?
From a payroll perspective, I don't think there's too much change, but again, I'd need to look into it in more detail. Obviously, the payroll will be processed as usual, and be reduced for obviously the level of pay required. But again, I'm happy to look into it and get back directly on that.
Thanks, Andrew. That marks the end of our first live stream session on COVID-19, and we will continue to bring you further updates as we get more developments over the coming weeks. Thank you to all of our speakers who have taken the time to be with us today. I appreciate it's an incredibly busy time, and thank you to all of our viewers who have streamed into this session today. We will continue to respond to your questions, and please do keep an eye on the website, thechamber.org.nz, under the COVID-19 section, and we will make sure that we bring you more information on clarity around some of those questions that you've raised today that we haven't been able to respond to in full. We will also ensure that we continue to advocate both directly and through Business New Zealand for further support, and to make sure that we're elevating those inquiries and those concerns that you may have where appropriate. It's at times like this that we cannot underestimate the collective power of working together and supporting each other to get through. Please make sure that you reach out. Use the Chamber as your trusted advisor. Kia kaha, kia ora.